Got Your Eers On is brought to you by Tactical Legion 9. All
right, everybody, hello and welcome to this week's episode of Got Your Eers On. Guido here along with Scoop, Ugh, and Johnson.
We got a few things to talk about, boys.
Yeah, guys, a lot to talk about. So WVU, last we left you previously on Got Your Eers On. WVU, we were waiting to see where we're going to get, we had heard that we would turn down going to one of the invitationals. We were waiting to see if we got an NIT bid because Shane Lyons said, well, if we get an NIT bid, we'll go. We did not get an NIT bid. Everything for WVU men's basketball shut down, Johnson, and then the week just caught on fire after that.
Yeah, then the news, I feel like, really began. So I guess we heard on the 13th that we didn't qualify for the NIT, like you said, since Shane Lyons said he gave the CBI the Heisman. That meant there was no more games to be played, which I thought was interesting because that was on the heels, just to recap a bit. So like you said last time, just to recap a bit, Hugs had said, look, we got more games to play. Let's go play some games. There's probably a trophy out there we can still bring home to the state. And
the guys want to play.
Yeah, guys want to play. They said they want to play. We'll play. Lyons cuts that off a little bit, and then the NIT extends no invitation, which, Scoot, I mean, to a team with a losing record, we weren't surprised by it. We thought maybe the cachet of Hugs and Big 12 and selling tickets in the Coliseum might entice some invitational tournament.
I was hoping
invites, but
I will be blatantly what's the word I want to say? I will be blatantly honest, I guess, this episode. I didn't really want to see us get a bid because I didn't want to see this team play anymore. I was kind of glad that we said we weren't going to take a CBI. Like, I'll be honest, again, today maybe honesty is the key for tonight's show. I don't know any of the teams that are in the CBI. Don't even know when that was selected. Don't know where I'd be able to watch that on TV. I'm sure there's some place.
Right.
It's to me, not even, I'm glad we said we weren't going to do that because it seems like it was a waste of time anyway.
Well, and I think it was like $60,000. It was like $60,000 to just go and play the first round of the CBI. And so it was, there was a money factor in there, which is, I think, why Shane Lyons, kind of jumped off saying, hey, it ain't happening. So, but anyways, so from there, we don't get we don't get any tournament invite. We got nothing. We get the old no soup for you. And not shortly thereafter, Johnson, the transfer portal madness starts to happen Wednesday.
Yes.
And it just goes kind of downhill from there.
Yeah. So the funny thing, Guido, is people on Mountaineer Twitter start tweeting about, okay, let's build this roster. Okay. There are now, there's a account at Verbal Commits that kind of tracks this stuff that I think is interesting. At least earlier in the week, it was noting 300 plus names now listed in the transfer portal. That thing's updated daily. So people started talking about, let's see, we had Jalen Llewellyn at Princeton is available. Ethan Bach was tweeting that. If you're not following him, you probably should. And people were like, okay, let's switch gears now and see, here are the holes to fill. Let's start looking at people who are available. And then we have the announcement starting first with Jalen Bridges, who, Scoot, we went through, I think, 2 episodes, and we said, who do we think would stay? Who do we think would go? Jalen Bridges for Guido and I were like a 60-40. Like, we thought it was very, very, very possible, but we were hoping that was probably the 60-ish % of our prediction is he would stay. Pepperoni rolls, Fairmont, let's keep him in the fold, right?
Right.
On the 16th, he tweets out, thank you, Coach Huggins and the rest of the staff for giving me the opportunity to play for and represent West Virginia. I appreciate everyone in the Mountaineer basketball family, teammates, and Mountaineer Nation for the continuous support over the years. With that being said, Scoot, don't you always love, like, bunch of positives.
Yeah.
Then with that being said, comma, and that comma is like if Jalen had gloves, like the old French, like slap, slap across your face, like the comma is those gloves, like challenging you. With that being said, slap, I believe it's in my best interest to enter the transfer portal. My recruitment is now open. So
respect my decision.
Right. God's plan.
Right.
Hashtag pepperoni rolls or something. So
Hashtag respect my decision.
I just thought, even though I thought, man, I think that's really in the realm of possibility, when I saw this tweet, and friend of the show, Brent Solheim, actually passed that along to me first. That's where I saw that first. So I think everyone was kind of seeing it at the same time. I was still super shocked. So I don't know how you guys felt, but seeing it like confirmed, I was like, oh man, that feels bad.
Well, and I think what made it even shocking or more shocking was, I don't know, that tweet came out and not even 15 minutes later, Johnson, it gets thrown out there because Isaiah Cottrell is no longer on Twitter. He backed off of Twitter for personal reasons. But it comes out on Twitter that he's now entered himself. Because, I guess how it works is, and I learned this week, that usually, you have to, by like 9 or 10 a.m. in the morning, notify the NCAA on your attentions, and
right.
It gets put in. And like, so the school, Coach Huggins, Shane Lyons, who was ever in the athletic department, they probably knew in the morning, 10 a.m. They probably knew, so within the span, Scooty, of like 30 minutes, you have these two guys who we thought were going to be the backbone of the team, or had the possibility to be the backbone of the team in 2022, 2023, have now entered the transfer portal.
Yeah, I had kind of predicted that I thought Jalen would go, and I thought Isaiah might stay. I apparently was 50% correct.
Yes.
Jalen.
Well, and Scoot, Guido and I were the other way.
We were the other way.
So I think, we were both a little mixed.
I'm not surprised. I guess I wasn't surprised. For me, it was more so a validation of my own thoughts about the program.
Yeah.
In that there's big problems afoot. And we can go on Twitter and read all the Twitter comments from the people that are following WVU about how, it's the uniform, it's the school you're supposed to cheer for. It's, it doesn't matter who's here. We're still going to dye gold and blue and all of that stuff. That's great if that's how you feel. But there's a problem. So there's an issue, because I know there are transfer portal issues with other teams, but right now we're looking at 5 returning players from last year's team. One of them is a so-so point guard who, he averaged 5.3 points a game.
Yeah,
that's what we have coming back.
Kedrian.
5.3 points a game.
So Kedrian did announce, hey, I have unfinished business, so we know Kedrian's coming back.
Right.
And then we've got 4 freshmen who will be sophomores. Well, I guess technically 2 will be sophomores.
Two
will probably be
sophomores. Yeah.
2 will be redshirt freshmen, which is, like Bob Huggins has even said, I don't think it was Bob Huggins who said redshirts are kind of becoming a thing of the past. Because the transfer portal makes it so that you don't want to redshirt anybody because they'll leave on you.
Right.
And then you look at the 5 we have coming back. We have 3 guards, a 6'7" guy named Jamel King, who I don't know if he's an outside shooter, an inside scorer. We didn't really get to see a lot of him. And James Okonkwo, who's 6'8", who had like a bad foot. And from everything that we ever hear about, he's great in practice, but the 4 minutes that we got to see him play this season really didn't show us any of that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Scooty, that like whatever happens next year is happening next year. Like, I think what I'm more concerned about is what's going on now. Like, you got 2 guys that have some sort of West Virginia roots a little bit with them. Isaiah Cottrell, he played where? Beckley Prep? Is that where
Huntington Prep.
Huntington Prep,
yep.
sorry. And for me, and granted, I know I'm a Fairmont guy, born and raised. I was a polar bear. Jalen was a polar bear.
It hurts.
It hurts, man. And like, this is where my problem is right now, is like, take away everything else. Take away whatever's going to happen next year, whoever we get for transfers, whatever the NCAA's doing, the transfer portal, this, that, the other. Jalen Bridges puts out on Twitter when he leaves at one point. He did his whole announcement thing, Johnson, but later on he had a tweet where he was like, happiness is greater than the NIL.
Yeah.
So for him, it's not about money, right? So for him, it's about something else. And so now I'm starting, when he put that tweet out, and then you saw a couple of other former WVU players tweet out things. You saw Emmett Matthews tweet out something, Johnson, that was like, oh, here we go. You saw a couple of other, I think Culver tweeted out a very cryptic sort of weird,
Culver's is cryptic because I'm not sure. I don't know who types his stuff. Sometimes I feel like he might use his toes.
But here's my thing, Scooty. Like, this is where I'm frustrated about it is there is a problem. And there were leaks out of the program this week. Is it Larry Harrison? Is it who's getting in the game, who's not getting in the game?
The problem
practices.
Here's the problem. I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem is the staff, right? The staff is stale. The staff has been,
I'm with you,
for a long time, a bunch of guys that are Huggins disciples.
Yes.
Who don't really question anything, and they just kind of do what they're asked to do, or sometimes they kind of do what I guess they think is best, according to what Huggins would want. And you don't have anybody hungry. There's nobody hungry for their own job. Eric Martin, I guess, might be the hungriest of them, and he gets mentioned occasionally for other jobs. But he's not actively seeking, I don't think, a bunch of other jobs.
But I think, it's Scooty, I think Eric Martin's probably, of all of them, and I don't know this, and we're not there, and we're just speaking from what we feel or what we think we see. I think Eric Martin's probably the least of Huggins' concerns on the staff.
I agree with
that. Don't you think, though, just to step back for a second, because since this... Now you have these two divergent conversations on Mountaineer Twitter. One is these guys are soft, and you can't let what people say on Twitter dictate what decision you make to stay or go, right? And then you have other people saying, like, well, these people on the toxic side of our fan base, because Guido, you reminded me, like, right, there's no. I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting that Jalen did his announcement on Twitter, Isaiah didn't, and then you reminded me. I forgot, just in the scheme of things, I forgot that Isaiah just decided I'm not going to be on Twitter anymore because I've gotten so much hate, right? And so to me, I think someone else I follow had tweeted like, look, if you think guys change schools because of what someone said on Twitter, I think you're out of your mind. And I sort of veer in that direction because to me, these decisions, Scoot, let me get this off my chest because I want to throw something out there and I want to see what you guys think. Like, to me, these decisions are not made in the first week of March, right? These decisions aren't made when the NIT says, hey, we're not inviting you. They're not made when the tournament starts, right? We didn't make the tournament. They're made in an airport in West Texas somewhere in the middle of February when Hugs has spent 3 weeks in a row telling Tony and everyone else in the media how awful you are, how you won't work, how you won't get in the gym, how your friends that arrived at the team through the portal are worthless and you did a bad job in the portal and you're not playing like, and so it's an it's an and, Guido, just allow me one second. It's an and.
I know.
Like, and the rotations are ridiculous, right? And you start, but then you sit half the game because we have to try to play 12 people. And it's the worst attempt at an offensive play style we've seen in years. And the people on Twitter are yelling at me, right? It's not like I think people are being way too, like, they're trying to assign a blame to this. And for some reason, we've decided that the coaching staff cannot be blamed, right? That's annoying to me.
Well, and here's the thing, Johnson, and there's a lot, and don't get me wrong, I agree with you. And there's a lot that goes into this. I mean, the way that they've changed the transfer system in general, like, you don't sit out anymore. That's changed it. The name and likeness has changed it, even though it appears in WVU's case, it's not a factor, but whatever. Like, I think the problem is, and I'm going to say this, and I didn't want to, I guess this is a little premature for what I wanted to talk about, but like on top of everything else this week, when you look at the basketball side of thing, then Nicktroy Fortune throws his name from the football side, a defensive back that was going to be a starter, was a starter previously. He throws his name in the transfer portal, and now I'm starting to look at the whole athletic department as a whole. And this is, I listen to a lot of WVU podcasts. I read a lot of WVU, sports websites and, everything from, sites that people care about to sites that people think are crazy. And I mean, none of them are talking about, and I think my problem is this is a top-down problem. And where is Shane Lyons in this whole situation?
Well, I like where you're going. I guess I would just ask you, do you think, to me it feels very different. To me these basketball transfers feel like, I don't think it's too much to ask that I am able to enjoy my basketball experience and be successful and have fun and want to be here. That feels like basketball transfers. Football transfers, and I know we'll get there when we talk football, but I'm glad you brought it up because football transfers feel like greener pasture attempts.
Yeah, but
football transfers to me feel like I can do better somewhere else, whether it's nil or whatever they think it is. These basketball transfers feel like getting away from just a gloomy, no fun, who's inspired by the coaching staff, right? Like, look, I love hugs. Okay. So this isn't like a diatribe on hugs, but just if you take your emotion as a West Virginian out of the mix for a second, like,
right.
Who's motivated, who's inspired, who watches those post games, who watches the product on the court and is inspired by any of that? It looks like no fun whatsoever, Scoot.
Well, I'll go to Guido's thing, but first I'm going to go back to where you were at, Johnson. You were right in that this stuff wasn't decided this week or even the week before. It wasn't decided at the conference tournament. It was decided probably back in December when we started hitting that that conference schedule. And after those games, first couple games when, in the locker room, Coach Huggins is ripping. Some of the other coaches I'm sure were ripping. You're on a bus. Coaches might be ripping. So, you're having those conversations that are not pleasant. Those guys are thinking, okay, listen, in their minds, and I don't know this, but we're gonna try to do our best to guess what they were thinking. Listen, if things don't change here in the near future, I'm going to start looking. And if it seems like it continues, like, why would I stay? So that's when guys start thinking, okay, listen, I got ripped this game. We got ripped this game. We play again. We're getting ripped again. I'm trying hard, but it's not everything I try isn't, because it wasn't lack of effort, right? I don't know that anyone ever faulted us for lack of effort. It's just we were poor on execution, and some of that is the game plan. Like, let's have Taz and Sean dribble for days.
But Scooty, I don't even know if it's game plan. Like, I think this is and this is where I'm trying to get at with it. Like, do I think Coach Huggins, do I think that, Ron Everhart and Larry Harrison and Eric Martin, do they know basketball? Yes. Do they know how to coach basketball? Absolutely. They wouldn't have gotten to where they are if they didn't coach basketball. This is a cultural problem.
I agree.
This is not a problem with did they try hard enough? Did they not try hard enough? And the problem is like in previous years, and I'm sure if we had Brent Solheim back on, which he will come back on someday, I hope. If you're listening, Brent, we'd love to have you back. Just to reach out. I mean, just to let you know. But anyway, like, I'm sure in those days, those guys got frustrated, but like, they didn't have in today's world with the way transfers work, with the way name and likeness is now, leaving a school is so much easier than it was 20 years ago.
No, I know. And I totally agree. And so you're right.
And so Huggins' problem is, and this is where I'm going to put it back on Bob Huggins. Like, take everybody else out of it. They don't like the way Larry Harrison does the rotations. That's fine. Whatever. Take Larry Harrison out. Huggins' problem is he's not adapting the culture of the team to what today's world in NCAA Division I basketball is. And that's where I think the problem is, guys. And so I'm not saying that we need to put Huggins, out to pasture. I'm just saying that, like, it's a cultural problem, and he needs to either learn to adapt, or we have to adapt if we want to compete. And that's where I'm frustrated.
It is a Shane Lyons. It's a Shane Lyons problem ultimately, right?
It is.
So if Shane Lyons isn't pushing this cultural change because of, I would think he of all of the people within the school have the best finger on the pulse of NCAA athletics, because he's probably a part of a lot of different committees and things. It's ultimately up to him to kind of shepherd the athletics program. And in this case, football and basketball are the two big money winners, right? They're the two sports that all the eyes are on.
Yep.
And if he's not stepping in and inserting his, or I shouldn't say inserting, asserting his will in the programs, and he's just letting them kind of do their own thing, then it's on him. And I'll even go one farther, and I'll say to Gordon Gee, who also for a university president is very involved in athletics. I know he's been very involved in like college football playoff and all of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
I would think that he would have to be looking at Shane Lyons saying, hey, Shane, we need to make a push here, because right now the university is taking a couple of L's here on the chin publicly. And at some point it's going to hurt us financially, because people, it's bizarre to me that we were selling out in the season that we had. I think people just wanted to get out of the house.
That's a COVID thing.
At some point it's going to catch up, and people aren't going to just come out to watch watered down product against a fairly stout league, both in football and in basketball. And we're going to become kind of an also-ran if we don't do something quickly.
Yeah, and I think there's also no way, though, that Hugs is having fun. Like, Guido, you're not wrong about Shane Lyons, but like we're talking basketball. From a basketball culture, you can't watch Oscar go be player of the year with Kentucky. You can't watch Culver walk away from basketball. You can't watch Teddy Buckets go to New Mexico State. Now, look, Teddy's on like his 92nd team, right? I get, like, each of these guys, you can take each of these on the face and have a whole conversation about. I get it, right? I'm generalizing, but I'm just saying you can't retain any of that talent and make something out of it. Like, what to me, it's like people want to get away so fast when they have the opportunity that I think you hit it on the head when you said there is just a cultural issue right now.
And Scooty, to add on to what you were saying though about Shane Lyons, and this is where, and here's the thing, you were right. The school has taken a lot of L's this week. There's been a lot of hits and losses, and to add on to all of the other problems on top of that, like, so you talk about football, you talk about basketball. I mean, football's been a mess now for months. Basketball now, turned into a mess the last 2 months. And then on top of everything else, Mike Carey for the women's retires. And granted, Mike Carey's been with the program for 21 seasons. He has almost 500 wins. He's a winningest, he'll go down, and it'll be a long time before there's anybody who passes him wins. But on top of all of that, the women get an invite. They get passed over on the March Madness women's, the women's NCAA tournament. They get an invite to the NCAA or to the women's NIT, and then Shane Lyons comes out and says, "No, we're not going to do it. It costs too much money." I mean, he didn't say it costs too much money, but essentially that's what he said. And they don't go to the NIT. They say, they get the auto for the NIT. They don't go. 2 days later, Mike Carey, who has been a great coach for women. He's really turned that WVU women's program, Scooty, into a solid program producing WNBA players. He announces his retirement sort of out of left field.
Yeah, so I wonder when that came out, I did kind of wonder, like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did he say he was going to retire and maybe he didn't make that public yet, and that's why they decided they wanted to not do it? You would think they would still want to do it, though, almost like kind of like one last hurrah.
Especially if they knew he was. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, if they knew he was going to retire,
right?
If they knew Mike Carey was going to retire, they would have said, "Oh, well, let's let him at least go to the NIT, have like one last hurrah. Maybe he pulls it off. Maybe he wins it, gets a couple more wins under his belt, whatever it might be."
Right.
Instead, they announce they're not going, and he retires 2 days later.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
And this is where I'm tired. Like, Grant, listen, I think that we've been sitting here the past, whatever it is, year and a half, and we've pointed the fingers at COVID, and we pointed the finger at Neil Brown, and we've pointed the finger at Huggs and his staff. And I'm starting to have a problem with Shane Lyons. I'm starting to have a problem with the direction the athletic department as a whole is going. Randy Mazey's doing great. Randy Mazey wasn't a Shane Lyons hire, and granted, there are some good hires in there, Scooty. You can have that argument with me. I know soccer's a great hire. I know there are other things. And I know Shane Lyons is a West Virginia guy. He's from Parkersburg, right? So there's a lot, but there is an overarching problem at the university. This isn't just
Guido, doesn't it feel too like, to me, you bring up Shane Lyons. I think it's a good segue because it felt disjointed last week when we were talking about Huggs saying, look, we've got more, there's other tournaments out there. We've got more ball to play. I asked the guys if they want to play. They said, yes, we're going to go play. Then on the heels of that, Shane Lyons says, well, you're not going to play in the CBI. That feels very
right.
Like you would have thought Huggs would have never made, they'd be a little more lockstep. I mean, let's not read too much into that, but that feels weird. It feels disjointed. And then this Mike Carey retirement is really weird because in that announcement, Shane Lyons cites players set to hit the transfer portal as one of his reasons. And I'm with you. I would think you'd want your outgoing coach that's won 400 plus games. You'd want that person to have a final postseason. Let's celebrate, one last time in March with Coach Carey. So that feels so weird to me. And again, disjointed. So I don't know what to make of all that, but I think it makes for an end, a really odd, weird end. And I'm sure Mike Carey would have wanted to have that end in a different fashion, I would think.
Right.
Also weird is I believe his son is on the staff. So what happens to something like that? When he retires and they bring in a new coach, I imagine his son, I think his name's Craig, if I'm not mistaken. So does he, I guess he's out of a job, would be my, unless the athletic department were to offer him something within. So that's kind of another wrinkle in all of this. Not that it's a big factor or not, but just kind of unusual. Going back to the Huggins and Shane Lyons and all of that, right? So if we continue to try, if Huggins isn't willing to change, because he's going to have to change something, right? He can't continue to say, well, I'll fix it and then keep everything the same, static, and then think just because he brought in different people that ought, like different, when I say bring in different people, athletes, players,
right,
that's automatically going to fix all of the problems. Because there's obviously more than just personnel on the court issues. Some of it is like Johnson said earlier, we play 12 guys. Look at every great basketball program in America, all the blue bloods. Tell me which ones of those are playing 12 guys every game.
Yeah.
When you're not playing.
Very few.
And we don't play a style that needs to play 12 guys.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Right.
And don't you think, we were talking earlier in the week, what my fear is too, Scoot, is to me, this kind of thing takes on an inertia of its own, right? Like we're sitting here just saying that Kobe Johnson, Seth Wilson, Jamel King, James Okonkwo, like, okay, well, at least they'll be back and then we'll add some parts. I don't even know that you can really make that assumption. Do you? Like I think this stuff takes on a mind of its own, where if you're these remaining guys, I think these transfers start to create this inertia where like maybe you weren't even thinking about it, but you don't want to be
they may go out.
Yeah,
right.
you don't want to be the guy that didn't look for options or stay, and then this is
let's say we start to bring in some guards and Huggins or the staff make very positive comments about them when we get them in. Is Kobe and Seth, are they going to stick around and say, you know what? They're probably going to play these other guys. Like, I I don't know their relationship with the coaching
I just
staff,
think this thing takes on an energy of its own. Like now you just have this culture of a revolving door, and that's what I worry about.
The only one I feel really good about staying, and I don't know really why. I think other than the fact that I read something about his dad wanting him to redshirt all along is Okonkwo, because he was way young.
Yeah.
He was like 17 the whole season. So my guess is he stays.
But don't you think, Guido,
that,
before we leave this, don't you think that on the basketball side, now we should probably talk football too, because Nicktroy came out of nowhere, but on the basketball side, rather, doesn't this feel like something Hugs and staff, I mean, Shane Lyons aside, but Hugs and staff could affect immediately? Like, we were joking that Hugs is on TNT this week, right? Over the weekend, talking about games. He's on with Frank Martin. And we were joking like, well, maybe while they're there, Hugs can just ask Frank to join the staff. And we were joking about that. But like, I feel like after I thought about it, I was like, that's actually a great, like, yeah, you know what?
It'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would actually
be great.
It would probably inject some energy. Like, it just feels like on the basketball side, you could right the ship. We've talked about it before. You need 5 to 7 guys, and you need, like, get the energy back in the other direction, get this inertia back in the other direction. Football feels different to me.
Well, and here's the thing, Johnson. Like, right now, I mean, yes, Huggins is on TBS. He's, and I'll say this: Huggins funny. Huggins is pretty funny when he's on TV. I mean, he's dry.
It's
but,
a recruiting tool. Let's be honest. Huggins does not have the personality that says, hey, I want to be on TV. He's not seeking these opportunities out. He's been asked to do this, and in the back of his mind, or maybe it's even Mrs. Huggins, his wife, saying to him, listen, you need to get out there and do this, because it might help you bring some, it could be the difference.
I think it's the school, Scooty. I think the school's saying it. But here's the thing. Like, we know for a fact that Huggins is doing his TV thing now for March Madness. But we also know for a fact that all of the staff, all of the coaching staff is out doing recruiting right now. There's some that are I think in Kansas, doing the national, JUCO tournament that's going on. Because, the way JUCO does their March Madness, big quote, air quotes, March Madness, they all come to one place and do it. So it's like a week and a half of like.
And we've seen some offers come out of that.
Yeah. And so I guess my question is, though, is what we haven't heard is any changes in the coaching staff. We haven't heard anything about, and I know it's early still, and I know you usually don't hear that until after the NCAA tournament's done, but all those guys are out on the road right now. I from a basketball standpoint, I'm starting to become concerned because, Johnson, wasn't there a stat or something that said, there have been like how many transfers over the past 5 seasons? Like, there's been all of this, like, people are leaving.
I think the stat was like, there was some weird stat where there's only been 2 guys that have lasted 4 years.
Yes.
And it was Rout and Harler.
Yeah, I think Josh, so Josh Witt over on Unreasonable Doubt, I think Josh had tweeted out that I think in like Hug's entire tenure at WVU, he's only had 16 players, I believe, go through the process as 4-year players through the program. And that is really weird. I think, like you said, Scoot, I think he cited the last 2 were Logan and Chase Harler. So I think it's one of those things where, like, I don't know that you definitely need 4-year guys all the time. I think that's a rarity now anyway. Like, I think we're probably naive if you think you're going to get a parade of 4-year guys through the program. But
correct. But
I think, like, right now you're not to repeat myself, but I just think you've now created this culture that is like, I mean, look, I'm a big proponent of, I hate the Big 12 anyway. I like Big 12 basketball, but I mean, if you're going to be in this weird geographical fit, it has to be a miserable experience, Scoot, like you were kind of alluding to, when you're sitting in like the Lubbock airport and Hugs has told you he hates you for the 15th time. And like,
you're thinking of what schools recruited you before.
Yeah. You're like, right. God, this is miserable.
We've heard Brent talk about that kind of situation where he got, kind of had some strong conversations with Coach Catlett, and he's thinking to himself, okay, I wonder if this school that offered me might still be interested. And, those types of things start going through your mind. Like, there's got to be something better. Let me talk to my buddy that plays at this school and see what if he's got the same kind of stuff going on.
And I'm going to go back exactly to what you were saying, Scooty. Like, we're going to go back to Jalen Bridges. And you look at Jalen Bridges, he's a guy who grew up wanting to be a Mountaineer. He's a guy who grew up 15 minutes away from Morgantown. He probably went to 1 million games as a kid watching Huggins coach. You know, and you look at like the football side of things, and you look at the Stills brothers, you look at Zach Frazier, you look at all these other Fairmont senior guys who have, you know, yes, there are problems with the program, but who have stayed in Morgantown. Jalen jumps ship.
Well,
you know?
It started to go bad for me with Jalen when his dad started tweeting on his behalf. That's when I started to think, okay, is this like a D'Angelo Hunter type situation where dad's now going to start to get on social media and, you know, and make comments like, hey, we were expecting this and we're getting that, you know, we're getting something different than what we expected. And you started to see a little bit of that.
Well, Guido, what do you think? I wonder, just if we could talk really quick, do you think, I have an opinion on these two in particular, who I think this will be probably a good move for, and who I think it may not be a great move for. And I'm curious to see what you guys think for Isaiah and for Jalen.
I think it's, well, hearing from some of the stuff that we've been hearing about the schools that have shown interest, apparently it's going to be a good move for both of these guys, because I didn't really expect them to both get the Power 5 interest that they're both getting. I think John Flowers tweeted that Isaiah Cottrell is going to play in the NBA or something at some point. I think it was John that said that. So,
and there's been a lot of Big 12 talk for Isaiah Cottrell. That's the other thing that scares me.
That would be a kick in the pants for sure.
There have been some other, and I mean, JB's gotten a couple of Big 12 teams on his list, but I mean, again, JB's got some big teams on his list too. I mean, I think that's what kind of, you know, kicks me a little bit. That's a real kick in the junk, guys, is like, you know, if we then lose these two guys and we face them in conference next year, like, that's, you know, I don't know. I think the problem I'm having right now is that I hate to lose players. You know, the NCAA has changed. You know, there are no more Brent Solheims, Pat Whites. There are no more, you know, guys that are going to stay for 4 years, and there are no more Owen Schmitz. There are no more guys that you feel. I don't think that exists anymore in the NCAA. I don't think it does. I don't think that's going to happen again.
Well, I think it exists. I just think it has to be. I think it has to be a place that is a magnet for those guys. I think that exists. I don't think it exists for WVU. Drew Timmy is working on a PhD apparently. I mean, he's been at Gonzaga for like 18 years or something. So like, I think it exists, but I think guys like, look, if you're 18 or 19, I just think
Ice. What's that guy's name from Ohio?
Ice Likely.
State?
Yeah, Ice Likely. I think that exists, but I think you have to be a magnet for that stuff. I think you have to be incentivizing guys to see the quality of your program, the culture that's there, the way people fit, the way people have fun, the way they are, you know, you can see it easily how productivity and success and hard work equals, you know, this stuff in a Power 5 conference. I think right now, like Scoot references it all the time. If you go back to I feel like we've been living a bit. I mean, it hasn't completely repeated itself, but I feel like we're living a bit in the same fashion since 2013 of this like rinse, lather, rinse, repeat.
I'll fix it.
Yeah, but I don't.
I mean, that's a
terrible culture.
I'll fix
Come
it.
on.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it's been this bad. And I mean, Johnson, you and I have been, you know, we're fans in perpetuity. Scooty's a 25 plus year fan now of WVU sports. Like, I think the problem I have with it is I've never felt or seen it this bad.
Promise was on the horizon, right? So you had, and the last time we had to fix it, we had, Derek Culver and Jordan McCabe stepped up their freshman years and saw increased minutes, and we thought, okay, maybe this will be a good duo moving forward. We can kind of build off of this.
Even at that, Scooty, like, take all of that apart. Like,
what do we have to build off?
Not even that part of it. You never felt like I never felt like the people who were leaving, or the problems were the fact that it was
right.
WVU was a terrible place to
Right.
be. And that's what it is now. Like, that's what it feels like.
When Dalton
Jalen
Pepper
made me
and
feel like
when Jabari Hines
WVU
left and Keaton Miles, I wasn't really
Right.
worried. I was like, all right, see you later. Like,
even when Teddy Allen left, like Teddy Buckets,
Yeah,
like
right.
even when Beadle left, like all of those guys, like you didn't feel like they were saying WVU is a terrible place to be. You felt like they were saying, "Hey, I've got this better opportunity."
Yeah, but I mean,
Cottrell
yeah,
and Bridges, it makes it feel, in between that and what Matthews said and what Oscar's saying and what Schwebe or what Culver's said, and now it feels like it's a cancerous place to play basketball.
Well, but
that's what it feels like
right now.
Yes.
So we're very recent. Like, I think the problem is you have to, like, 2019 Hugs won 21 games. Even 2020 he won 19. We tied for third in a ridiculously tough Big 12 conference both of those seasons. So it's not sunshine and kittens by any stretch of the imagination. But I think even when the point I'm trying to make is, even when things are good, even when things are serviceable, even when things are pretty good, 20 plus wins, it just doesn't feel great. Like, the culture doesn't feel great.
Right.
So then when you
Right.
have one of these seasons where the wheels just fly off after like the first 13 games, it feels horrible. It feels like Mariana's Trench terrible, right? So,
And on top of everything else, Scooty, like Huggins' demeanor in general is very much like a very aloof kind of like, that's his thing anyways. And so now it makes it even worse when Huggins that.
Can I throw something else into the mix here? Because I think this might be the answer or the reason for you guys and your emotions, right? So, being the one outsider,
I'm not emotional. You think I'm emotional? I'm not emotional
being
about
the
this.
one outsider, being somebody not from the state of West Virginia, and having grown up somewhere totally far away.
the land of Connecticut.
Well, it feels different for you guys in the sense that
New York's frying pan hat.
enough of that. You guys have been born and bred, and WVU's all you've ever known. That was your pro team. That's what you followed. You knew all the backstories on all the players growing up. You could drive up and down my street, and I would say of the 20 houses on my street, 13 to 15 of them probably have some sort of WVU flag, paraphernalia, something.
Yeah, right.
So when the place that you have ingrained as part of your life and part of your way of being is seen as a problem, people get really not emotional, but get really affected by that, right? So it hits you guys a little bit different. Growing up in Connecticut, if UConn had a problem, we had Kevin Ali had a couple of bad seasons there. I don't think people in Connecticut could care one way or the other. They weren't feeling it like we are in West Virginia and you guys are as native West Virginians. It's a different feeling. And I think that also adds to some of the vitriol we see on Twitter, right? Because a lot of the people that are on WVU Twitter have a very close connection to the state or the school or both.
Yeah.
And so we see a lot of that emotion coming back and forth. Now, what we aren't seeing a lot of is what we like to think we feel, in the sense that we're not seeing a lot of attention on Shane Lyons. We're not seeing a lot of necessarily attention on Bob Huggins and his staff. We're seeing it. It's funny because Huggins has got this cachet where the wins, the year's service have kind of given him the the mulligan, where he can kind of not necessarily have the attention put on him. It's starting to, right?
Well, I don't
we're
think
starting
any
to
other
see it a little
program
bit.
would be allowed to have their coach say, "I'll fix it." Like, usually he's fixed. Like like the fix is,
and
he
even an
doesn't
experienced
return.
coach like Bruce Weber, he couldn't say, "I'll fix this."
Right.
They see it, Bruce. Take you and your weird hair and roll out.
It's right.
So, that's the thing. We've got this situation where Huggins has, for the most part, kind of gotten a pass when things have gone badly, whereas other coaches wouldn't. The difference between football and basketball is, and I think we see it, is more people are critical of Neil Brown and his staff because he doesn't have the panache.
Yeah,
he doesn't have the cachet that Huggins has.
And he's not one of us yet.
Right, and he's got some folksy kind of talk, but he's not.
But
he's not a West Virginian.
Huggins is one of us. Like Huggins is a West Virginian. And Neil Brown isn't, Scooty. That's the fact.
Well, how do you see this moving forward though? Because I think to me there's no like the situation can be bad and I can still be a big fan of Bob Huggins. Like those two things can still be true, you know?
I got to be I hear you, but I got to be honest.
Like how can it move forward?
Like, and I don't want to get to this point, but I feel like we know there's going to be player changes next year. We know there's going to be new faces, new names. We know there's going to be transfer portal kids coming in or JUCO players coming in. I think I'm going to have that's great. Like, great. I'm okay with new names. I understand that's how college basketball is now. I'm going to have a hard time if there aren't staff changes. I'm really going to have a hard time because there's something else wrong.
Well, it's like
you can't have this happen for a couple of years.
It's as if they said, hey, the coaches staff got together a couple of years ago and said, hey, listen, we don't have the talent that it takes we don't have the high-end talent that it takes to win in this league. So we're going to do this thing where we press all the time. But because we're going to do that, we've got some athletic guys, we're going to have to make a lot of substitutions. And the guys were like, okay, that sounds good. Larry's on board. He's got his little, he probably got a little chart somewhere that he keeps. He's probably like,
hey, Larry, get your little chart.
Saying,
hey,
okay,
Larry, get your chart out, Larry.
He's probably doing some sort of practice over, in the mirror or whatever. So then the night before a game, then what ends up happening is, okay, we cycle through those players. We do get some high end players.
Yeah.
We get an
Nate
Oscar.
Adrian. You get
we got Deuce.
I thought you meant to run the press.
Yeah, we did that. So I'm saying we did that press thing.
Yeah.
It worked out, right? It was fairly successful.
Right.
Kind of became a thing. So then those guys leave, the Tariq Phillips and Jonathan Holtons and everything.
Yeah,
they're gone.
right.
And we bring in Deuce and we have Javon and Daxter kind of toward the end. And we've got Derek Culver and Oscar. And it's as if they forgot, like, hey, I know we ran this and so we had to keep these substitutions going. So let's continue to substitute like we're running Press Virginia.
No, I do the still do the substitutions. I don't.
But
that's what I do.
You've got high-end talent that you don't really need to substitute any longer. So then the high-end talent is like, hey, man, I'm playing 7 minutes in the first half, and then I don't come in until the second half where I play 12. Like, that's not fun for anybody, and it has nothing to do with their fun.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Scoot. Like, it is.
So there's a disconnect, right?
You
So
can bring.
why are we doing that? It doesn't make any sense.
You can bring as many players as you want. You can bring. Hey, listen. You can have LeBron James and LeBron James Jr. come to Morgantown and play basketball. It doesn't matter if you don't use them right.
And Guido, don't you think it's interesting when you watch? So I almost feel like basketball season gets canceled when WVU bows out, right? Because my interest goes down. But I've watched quite a few games here in the tournament, and it's interesting when you turn a game on and you recognize head coaches now on the staffs of other teams. Like, I don't always know them by name, but I'm like, hey,
I know where you're going with
that
this.
guy used to coach at Providence, or like I'll do these like, oh yeah, I remember that guy.
Or when you have coaches that you used to watch play on the basketball court.
Yeah.
Like when you have a former Big East guy who's making some waves in the
So
NCAA March Madness.
Like, I feel like Hugs being Hugs, and like Scoot said, the cachet of Hugs, just what he brings. I'm surprised that we don't also see that. That's why I bring up the Frank Martin thing. Like, it seems like it would be a short step to have Hugs add,
Bring Frank Martin.
Yeah,
Bring
I
John
mean,
Beilein.
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Scooty.
I mean, John Beilein would be a weird thing, but bring
that'd be
bring
weird. But
Frank
let me
Martin.
ask you this, Scooty. What about a guy like, and I know you well enough to know, like, you would love to have a guy like Shaheen Holloway
in a heartbeat
on the coaching staff.
In a heartbeat. Give me a guy that's got a little grit. And here's the thing that I love about Shaheen Holloway, right? And it kind of hit me today a little bit because earlier in the week somebody had tweeted out the starting five from the Big East Championship,
right?
And they were all New York, New Jersey guys,
yeah.
And that fits Huggins. That is Huggins' DNA to a T, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he is a gritty New York, New Jersey guy, and I know it's hard to recruit that because we're in the Big 12 and it's a godforsaken conference.
Yes.
Iowa State is our rival. But they asked Shaheen Holloway, hey, was your team nervous, playing against Kentucky? And, they had a lot of physical guys and, you're playing some of these big guys. And same with Murray State. You got a lot of bigger players. And he said, I got guys from New York and New Jersey. We're not scared of anything. Like, that's what we're lacking. We don't have that edge.
It was amazing.
We don't have that grit. And to watch Shaheen Holloway on the sideline is fun to watch.
Yeah. It's the energy is just like
and here's the thing. This is, Scooty, you and I have this. And I mean, Johnson has this a little bit too, but you and I have it more. This East Coast bias that you and I have, like, East Coast basketball, those old Big East days.
I'm still going to tell you this, and I said this to you guys in the text, and I mean this wholeheartedly. The problem we have with our recruiting is we're going after these AAU JUCO tournament things. Huggins, to go along with his DNA, and I know he's getting older. Maybe this is why he's not wanting to do it. I don't know why he doesn't do this. I'd go to Rucker Park. I'd go to some of these places in New York City and New Jersey where you find guys that have nothing to lose or looking for an opportunity to get out of where they're at. If they can qualify academically, I say we need to bring some of those types in because those guys come in hungry. They're not scared of anything, and they're tough. They're dogs. They're ready to go, and that's what we're lacking. We've got some guys that we bring in that don't have that. And I'm not saying anything negative about the guys we have on the roster, which are like 5, but I'm not saying anything negative towards them. But there is something to be said for playing in the New York City League.
Yeah. Bob Huggins' best recruited team were when he was in the Big East. They were East Coast guys. They were those New York City guys.
Yeah, but therein is the problem, right? I mean, how are you going to convince Scoot, that kid from Rucker Park, to check out Ames, Iowa? Like, he doesn't want to do that.
Here's the thing, right? So the only selling selling point is you're going to be playing in the best conference in college basketball.
That you could do that.
You're going to be on television every game.
True.
You're going to be playing in front of 14,000 people.
I guess you really got to pump that aspect of everything. You got to pump those
things up, right?
You're going to get a lot of frequent flyer miles.
And I would say stuff like, listen, you stick with us, you get into our program, you stick with our program, your junior year. I know this is like a far-fetched now that the transfer portal's there. Listen, we'll try to get into as many games as we can in, like they typically try to get games against, if you're a senior, they try to play in your
early season tournaments, like in the
Hey, we're gonna play in Madison Square Garden in the preseason,
swing NIT. That kind of stuff. Yeah.
So that's the thing, guys, and this is where I'm at with the whole thing, and then we'll take a break and we'll do some fun segments.
You feel like you're exhausted. I feel like you're exhausted.
Well, I'm exhausted. I am exhausted. And this has not been a fun segment. And the problem is, guys, is that, in the past, and this is what Scooty was going to say, in the past, as a WVU fan, you've looked at whatever Huggins had, you've looked at whatever was going on in the program, you've looked at whatever's happening with football or whatever, and you saw light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm not saying, I think Graham Harrell's a great hire. I think there are some great things happening on the football side.
A mess. Football's a mess. Let's be honest.
But
it's a mess.
Yeah, but here's the thing: Nicktroy Fortune leaving, and it's great.
I've started to look for graduate programs because I think I might be able to get into the backfield.
Yeah, you've got some eligibility.
And that's the thing. You look at the football program and you go, well, they're trying to do things on the offensive side, but on the other side of the football, the defensive side's falling apart. And so, I think this is the first time in my lifetime being a fan, being a lover of WVU sports, Johnson, that I'm having a hard time digging in. I'm having a hard time seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
It feels like it's piling on, doesn't it? It feels
yes,
like
more
the move to the
and
Big 12.
I think that the world that we live in today, I think social media, the internet,
it's like
all
a magnifying
that's made it way
glass.
Worse.
Yeah,
yes.
Right. It's like that conference move was like, okay, we're gonna have to get used to that, and then in the process, now all of this weird transfer portal stuff is piling on.
Right.
So I totally get it. And Scoot, I agree with you. I think football right now feels like
it's a problem. It's a big time
place.
problem, right? I mean, football. If you're Shane Lyons, you've got to step in. I don't know at what point do you not step in, because I think at this point, like, okay, you may have said, hey, listen, we need to do something that's a little bit more exciting on offense. let's reach out and try to, like, I'll talk to my contacts and see if we can get maybe a conversation with Graham Harrell.
Well,
or,
I
something
wonder
like that.
though. I wonder though. Just to add on to your thought, do you think it's flipped? Do you think Mike Carey's like, I don't want to be under this Shane Lyons umbrella anymore, I'm out?
I think that's
Hugs,
what it is.
Do you think Hugs is like, whoa, wait a minute, I would have played in any tournament. What's this all about?
Right.
Like, do you think Neil
I
Brown's
think
like,
it is.
I got guys leaving because of whatever this mystery thing is that's imposed over? It's like what movie was that where there's like an invisible dome over the town and the people like, it feels like now with Guido bringing up Shane Lyons, it feels like there's something else at play here. People are former players are tweeting like, oh, now they're free.
And Johnson, I agree with you 100%. Like our friends over at 247 Sports, Country Roads Confidential Podcast, Chris Anderson at CM Anderson 247. He stated this week on their podcast. I listened to it. I listened to their, they did like an emergency podcast about what's happening in West Virginia. I listened to it and they said, and Chris Anderson said on the podcast, he goes, WVU football and WVU sports in general. I think I granted he said football, but I think sports in general is more what he was going over. He goes, there's going to be two things that are going to happen with media access to the program. It's going to be wide open. They're going to try to soften the media up, make everybody feel positive and happy, or they're going to shut it all down like Fort Knox because of all the recent bad news and try to spin it on their own. And unfortunately, they decided the latter of those two. And then
it causes more suspicion, doesn't it? It's like it like completely gives the wrong vibe.
It's a mess.
I
think Neil Brown was a bad hire.
It is a mess, Scooty.
I think it's.
I don't know if it's that though.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I mean. Like,
I don't
what's
know
at
if it's
play
Neil
here?
Brown.
It's so weird.
I don't think it's Neil Brown.
I think it is. But
I think that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't necessarily think it's Bob Huggins. I don't think it's Neil Brown.
I don't know that it's
you don't have
Shane
here's the thing, Scooty. You run a business. Like, listen, Scooty. Let's be honest for a second here. You run a business, right? Like, and at the end of the day, and we won't say what your business is, but you have many people who work under you, right? And if all of those people are doing a very bad job at their jobs, they're going to look at you as the person who's not leading them, as the leader. So you're the Shane Lyons of your company. I'll use big air quotes. Your company. So like that's the point I'm trying to make.
Oh, I agree. Listen, I agree that Shane Lyons probably needs to have somebody put their thumb down on him, right? So that's got to be Gordon Gee, because I imagine Gordon Gee's the guy that ultimately has the say in Shane, or I guess the board of trustees or the boosters or whoever.
I mean, this episode of the podcast better be named "Where's Shane?" Like that better be the name of this episode.
Right. It's ultimately him, but the coaches are ultimately the problem as far as the players go, right? So if we're having a problem with keeping players, that falls back on the coaches. That's not coming from Shane Lyons. Like, they're not leaving because of Shane Lyons.
But you don't know. You say that,
well,
Scooty, but
I guess my question,
like,
Scoot, would be when Nicktroy tweets, "I'm officially in the portal," and Parker Moore retweets it and responds, "Free." Like, free from what? What do you think he means? Free from what? Free from this invisible
Football
Shane
staff.
Lyons dome or whatever?
I think it's the football staff.
Free from Coach Brown? Like, what do you think he's free from?
I'd say football
I think
staff.
there's something else
maybe,
there.
and
I don't know.
Is it so? Those guys a lot of times have more contact with like their strength and conditioning staff than they do the actual coaches. So is it something to do with that? I have no idea.
I don't know.
But it's weird, right? It's a weird undercurrent right now. That
yes, I don't know. There's something going on, and I mean, we will be here.
It feels like it's spreading, Guido. Before we leave, though,
it does.
Like the
it's
Mike Carey leaving and not being in the WNIT because of people set to transfer, quote unquote. It feels like something's just spreading through the athletic facility.
And I think that's where I have the problem with it, Scooty. And you can say that. You can say it's the football staff. It's Larry Harrison. It's Huggins. It's Ron Everhart. You can say it's Mike Carey or Craig Carey. I don't know. You can call
one of those Careys. I don't know.
It's one of those. But here's the thing I have. We're talking about problems in multiple multiple
It
departments
falls on Shane
of
Lyons,
one
no
person's
doubt.
business.
No doubt, it falls on
Yes.
Shane Lyons for sure.
Scoot, we talk about games,
So, like,
not a
that's-
practice.
And
We're
and
talking about
he hired,
games. We're not-
and he hired Neil
That's
Brown.
why I'm mad about it. And listen, yes, he did hire Neil Brown, and I'm not saying maybe Neil Brown's
well,
not
he
the right person.
extended Neil Brown,
but-
Scoot.
And that's also like that was asinine.
But here's what I'm saying, Scoot. Like, that's what I haven't been hearing. And that's what I want to hear, Chris Anderson talk about. And that's what I want to hear
ultimately,
Mike
we're stuck
Casazza
with
and
Neil
everybody
Brown
else.
because of
That's
it,
what I
right. So if Neil
It's-
Brown is the issue, we can't get rid of him because we've got $24 million
Right.
to not have to come up with to get rid of him.
That's right.
all of them. I want to hear all of you guys out there. I know you listen to the podcast. Like Brad Smith, I know you're listening to the podcast. Shane Lyons is the problem. Like, let's go, because that's where that's where I'm at on it, guys.
We will not be getting any invites to the MAC donors galas or anything like that in the near future.
No, I mean, I didn't think we would. I mean, I am holding my hey, thanks for your donation to the fish fry, postcard right here.
But I think the silence, right? That's what you're getting at, Guido. It's like
That's what
the
I'm getting at.
silence kind of
It's-
starts to speak. Either you're lost and you don't know what to do, or
Yes.
you know what the problem is and you just don't want to. Yeah,
You ain't fixing it. You ain't fixing it. And guys, I said this to you this week on text, and I didn't want to bring it up on the show. WVU, and this is a very jaded sort of point of view at it. WVU doesn't care. Like, the university doesn't care. Shane Lyons doesn't care. I don't think Gordon Gee cares, because, and Scooty just said it, there's still people buying WVU flags. You still got people buying WVU T-shirts and whatever.
Do they not carry yet?
Not care
yet. What's
I'll
the
give you
tipping
that.
point? I mean, I think we were astounded, right, when there's almost 12,000 people in the Coliseum to watch those final basketball games.
Right.
Do you, like, is it a 50,000 home crowd in Mountaineer Field, or like a 7,000 crowd in the Coliseum? Like, when does it...
When do they
Yeah.
care? Do they care when there's only 25,000 people
Right.
watching
Yeah.
a WVU
Yeah,
football
I
game?
guess.
Right.
Do you feel like this episode we should just play the sound of silence
A little bit of Simon and Garfunkel.
in the background?
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Got Your Ears On Radio. Here's some Simon and Garfunkel
Hello,
for you.
darkness, my old friend.
Yeah, it's rough. It is. It's a rough situation, guys. But here's what we're gonna do. We're good. I know this is a long episode. We're giving you a long episode today because we're gonna take a couple weeks off after this, because listen. I think that everybody would agree. The three of us definitely would. It's been a rough couple of months as a WVU
It's been a thing.
podcast.
Yeah.
It's
There hasn't been anything good.
It's been a thing.
Has there?
No.
What
No,
is the
not
most
really.
positive thing we've had to talk about?
I mean, we
Give me
beat
one good
Kansas
thing.
State in the first round of the conference basketball tournament. I was happy for like 30 minutes.
against a team that basically was laying down
Yeah,
on their
you said
fallen
anything, Scoot. I'm
coach.
trying to give you something. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's maybe more depressing than anything.
I
Is
mean,
listening to
Kansas
poor Bruce Weber
State.
after the game.
I know
talk
Kansas State
about,
was so mad about it. They fired their coach. So I mean, like, that should
like
go to
how now. That was so depressing. That's like
Yeah,
poor Bruce.
right?
I actually felt like I liked Bruce Weber after that game, which is worse than being
You're
just
playing with
happy.
my emotions.
Well, listen, guys, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back with a segment with the number one game show on a WVU sports podcast. It's a game called Bluff the Fluff. So don't go anywhere. We still got podcasts going. Stay with us. There's more to come. You're listening to Got Your Ears On. Vortec Knives is a West Virginia owned and operated company specializing in high quality steel, fast opening, everyday carrying knives. If you go to vortechknives.com today and use the code GYEO, you get a 25% discount on your entire order. That's Vortech, VORTEK knives.com, a West Virginia owned and operated company specializing in fast opening, high quality, everyday carry knives. Vortec Knives.
Everything is A-okay. Yup. cause I'm strong as an OAK. And oh, the money don't grow on trees, and the B-R-O-K-E.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Got Your Ears On. Guido here along with Scoot and Johnson. Listen, don't forget, look for us online. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Got Your Ears. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search Got Your Ears On. And Johnson, we have a website. It's true.
It is true. It's a fact, Guido. We have a website, gotyourearson.com. You can find the latest podcast in blog form with all of our show notes right there in the blog. You can click on the tune in link on the side of the page to listen to the latest show. And you can also click through to the merch store and check out the GYEO merch. So check it all out. Gotyourearson.com.
Yeah, just check it out. It's a great place to be. It's fun. It's exciting. Just check it out, man. Just check it out. All right, guys. Well, listen, every week, or not every week, every couple of weeks, every so often, we try to do a game show that is pretty awesome. And the people think it is too, because it has been voted. It is known as the #1 game show on a West Virginia University sports podcast. It's a little game we like to call Bluff the Fluffs. Guys, I don't even know what the score is. I think, Johnson, you're leading 2-1 right now, if I'm correct. Is that right?
Yes, I believe that is correct.
Yeah, it's early in the year. Usually football season, we ramp these up and do them every week. During basketball season, they kind of, trickle in. So we've only done a couple this year so far. Right now, Johnson leads 2-1. Every week, I had a problem. I used to write these, but I'm a busy person, guys. I mean, Scoot knows I'm a busy guy.
Very busy.
So we had to get an intern. This intern, he's a nice fella. He helps us out.
He writes, I would submit, the best BTF questions to date. He does a great job.
Well, our previous writer was just god awful.
Whoa, wait. I thought he was pretty good.
It's tough. It's tough, right? And he brings quality questions, Scoot. Like,
yes.
As the Fluffs, Scoot, I don't know if you know this, but you and I are the Fluffs.
Yes, you are.
Like, he bluffs us quite often. Last week, I won on knowledge of the internet, which was apparently not very much needed to win that game, because you and I were bluffed quite a lot. So I'm just saying.
You're usually trying to Google the answers to all these questions anyway. So
I mean, he writes good questions, Guido.
He does write good questions. So thanks to Cloney, the Clone Dog. You can find him online at the Brian Cloney. He is the best writer for a West Virginia University sports podcast game show ever. Like, there's never been a
That's
writer.
Right.
Like, if there
That's
was
right.
we should actually, guys, we should conjure up an award for him.
Like,
for
give
this.
out awards, like the Bluffies.
would you say
or
he's
something?
the Pulitzer
Bluffies.
Prize?
I like that. The Bluffies. He's like got a lifetime achievement award
Yes.
for the Bluffies. Is that what it is?
Clone Dog.
Yes, Cloney.
Lifetime Achievement Bluffy Award.
Are you sure it's not the Fluffies?
The Fluffies?
The Fluffies. I'll take one of my old childhood basketball trophies apart and put it together and make a trophy for him. So we'll have to do that. Well, listen, guys, he wrote us one this week, and it's kind of interesting. I think I'll see how you guys do, because his topic this week is general knowledge.
Okay.
How do you?
Scoot, Scoot, you have a lot of general knowledge.
I do. I feel like he just thought, I've asked a lot of random questions here. Let's just call this general
That's what
knowledge.
I mean, we'll
feels
see.
like, yeah.
We'll see what it is. General knowledge. As always, a correct answer is worth 5 points. A steal is worth 10 points, and Final Bluff is worth 25 points. During the break, while we were still lamenting about how sad we are about WVU sports, we did randomly flip a coin, and Johnson, you came out on top this week. You get to go first.
Nice.
All right, here we go. First question about general knowledge is to you, Johnson.
Okay.
Johnson, the little white boxes used to serve General Tso's chicken today did not start as boxes for Chinese food.
Okay.
They were originally used as this: to hold oysters, to mail socks to soldiers during World War I, to transport fish from a pet store, or to bring food into space during the Apollo missions.
Wow. This is tough general knowledge
General
question,
knowledge.
Scoot, right off the bat.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to say that they were used to ship socks to soldiers, Guido.
I'm sorry, that's incorrect. Scooty, for 10 points in the steal, were they used to hold oysters, transport fish from pet stores, or bring food to space during the Apollo missions?
Clearly, they were used to transport oysters.
That's correct. I don't even know how you knew that. How did you?
I know general things.
You know
I know
general things.
I mean,
All
I
right.
eliminated a good guess, so
I
we'll
didn't.
give him some help
I thought
on that.
I thought for sure Scooty was going to go for the Apollo missions thing. So
No way.
congratulations, Scoot gets 10 points on the steal there for general knowledge. And the next question is back to you. In 2000, the hit motion picture Gladiator, General Maximus fought a tiger in the Colosseum. However, in the original script, it called for him to fight what? An ostrich that was on fire, a rhinoceros, his mother-in-law, or 5 lions, a snake, and 1 bear.
Well, I think any good historian would know that a rhinoceros is the correct answer.
That's correct. 5 lions, a snake, and 1 bear.
That's like he got tired of writing these answers, and he was like, "What are all the animals I can think of?"
I was hoping Scooty would go for an ostrich
The
on
mother-in-law?
fire.
Or the mother-in-law.
All right, Scooty's got a commanding lead 15-0 over Johnson right now after answering 2 general knowledge questions. And Johnson, this next question is back to you. Johnson, how many times have the Washington Generals beaten the Harlem Globetrotters? Is it 0, 1, 2, or 3?
I don't know, but I'm going to say 0.
I'm sorry, that's incorrect. Scooty, for 10 points and the steal, how many times have the Washington Generals beaten the Harlem Globetrotters? Is it 1, 2, or 3?
I feel like twice. 2 times.
I'm sorry, that's incorrect. The correct answer is 3. They've beaten them 3 times.
Really? Wow.
How bad would that be if like you brought your son or daughter
Yeah,
to see
that's
the
what I was
Globetrotters
thinking.
and they
That's-
lose to this random
that's
team?
right. That's why I said 0, because like come on, man, that's a terrible day at the gym.
True story here. We had a bootleg version of the Harlem Globetrotters come for a fundraiser to school. And
The Garlem Hope
they were,
Traders or something.
they were like
what?
the Harlem Clowns.
Oh,
I think
okay.
is what they were called.
All right.
The Harlem. They showed up in a 15-passenger van that was like, it looked rough. So they get it there. Apparently, they showed up with 4 people.
Okay.
You
usually
play with
need
5.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
you play
I mean,
with
that's
5.
basketball
I was
rules.
on the competitors
You
team. I was
were
local
one of the
law
Washington
enforcement.
Generals.
You were a general.
Yes, I was supposed to be a general, if you will, because they were short. I don't know how I take this. The law enforcement team was willing to sacrifice me, so I don't know if they felt that I was gonna hurt their chances.
They were like, "Take this guy."
Or they felt that I was too good to be on their team. So you must be a Harlem
Did
Clown.
you throw down the thunder on those cops or what?
Well, we won. The Harlem Clowns won.
Yeah.
I might have been their best player.
Really?
That's a problem
That
because I shouldn't be your best player when you're paid to play basketball.
true.
I feel like
And I'm not.
is there video of this? Is there video floating?
There is not, but there is a photo. I think you've thrown.
I
out
think
on
I have
Twitter
that photo
several times.
Yeah.
But there is no video. But multiple times did our team try to dunk, and multiple times they could not dunk.
Weren't they all like 50 plus? Like, weren't all of them like over the age of 50 when they were playing?
It was rough. Like it was a rough crew. I don't even know if they were. It was probably much like myself. They were probably just people that the guy picked up along the way, and just listen. I've got a uniform
Scooty?
you can fit. Get in the van.
Scooty was a globetrotter. All right, guys. Well, listen, Scooty right now has the lead 15-0 over Johnson. And Scooty, this next question is back to you. In March of 2022, Dollar General did this for the first time. Open a chain of Asian grocery stores, prohibit the sale of bazooka gum, open a store in Idaho, or become the exclusive U.S. distributor of clearly Canadian beverages.
I will say choice A with the Asian grocery stores.
Sorry, that's incorrect. Johnson for 10 points and the steal. Was it prohibit the sale of bazooka gum, open a store in Idaho, or become the exclusive distributor of clearly Canadian beverages? Those clear fizzy
I'm going to
beverages.
say clear fizzy beverages.
Sorry, that's incorrect. They actually opened a store in Idaho for the first time in 2022. So
I thought you were going to say they closed the store was going to be one of our options. That's what also threw me off because they don't close
no,
Dollar Generals. They just, like,
open
multiply
up. They
like
just multiply.
rabbits.
Right.
Like, if you cut a Dollar General in half, like 4 more multiply off of it.
They're
right?
like Hydra.
Yes.
They're like it's like a Hydra.
All right, so nobody gets an answer there, and we still got you a lead, Scooty. You're still up 15-0, but Johnson, this next question is back to you. In the United States military, the rank of general is the highest achievable commissioned officer rank that can be attained. What is the second highest rank? Is it brigadier general, major general, lieutenant general, or colonel?
It's hard to concentrate after how hard it was for you to read out that question, Clooney. I don't know what you're trying to do here, but I'm going to say lieutenant general.
That's correct for 5 points. Lieutenant general is the second highest after general. I would think, don't you feel like a brigadier general is higher than a
Kind of, yeah.
regular? I feel like brigadier is like kind of like a fancy word.
Yeah, fancy general.
I think it's French.
It's French. Everything's French to Scooty. A brigadier, a general Parker.
It's only fitting that he went to Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. That's French too, right?
Yes, Our Lady.
All right. Congratulations, Johnson. You got 5 points, but Scooty still has the lead 15-5 over you. And Scooty, this next question is back to you. This is the last question, though, by the way, Scoot, before Final Bluff. Kind of important.
Yeah.
Scooty, the hit CBS TV show Dukes of Hazzard and its infamous General Lee set the world record during its first show by doing this: setting the land speed record for modified factory sedans at 158 miles per hour, crashing 24 cars in one episode, jumping a record 82 feet in a car, or drifting a then record 125 feet around a turn.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I thought Tom Wopat or Schneider were going to be in here somehow, Scoot, but he didn't throw us
gotta
out.
like
he
General
didn't.
Lee. The General
I'm going to
Lee.
go with the drift because I think the jump is the thing that people think about, but I think it's the drift.
Sorry, that's incorrect.
Okay.
Johnson for 10 points and the steal to tie it up going into Final Bluff. Was it setting a land speed record for modified sedans at 158, crashing 24 cars in one episode, or jumping a record 82 feet in a car?
The crashes is enticing, but I'm going to go with the 82 feet.
That's correct. And Johnson ties it up, and he now is with Scooty going into Final Bluff 15-15. I love it, guys, when you come down to the Final Bluff all tied up.
It's a new game, Scoot.
We're 0-0.
That's right.
It's an overtime game. Like it's time to put up or shut up,
Indeed.
All right, as always, guys, on Final Bluff, it's worth 25 points. We ask you guys to bring your own buzzers to the game. And Scooty, what do you have for a buzzer for us this week?
Little General.
Yes. I will tell you, it's not in the questions. Cloney forgot the most important general, I think, of all the generals, didn't he?
Yeah, it's
That's right.
kind of a miss.
It's kind of a miss. It's kind of a miss he didn't get little general on it. Johnson, what's your buzzer for this week?
Teddy Buckets.
Teddy Buckets. All right. So two Huggins-esque buzzers right there with Little General and Teddy Buckets. All right, guys. Here we go. Last question. Final bluff. Worth 25 points. Winner takes all. Shaquille O'Neal, a spokesman for the General Auto Insurance, has a career free throw percentage of this: 42, 52, 63, or 59.
Little General.
All right. Scooty in first with his buzzer. What do you got for us, Scooty?
I believe it was 52%.
That's correct. 25 points, and Scooty gets the win over Johnson with 52%. Congratulations, Scooty, on your win. Johnson, so sorry.
Scoot, doesn't that seem high? It kind of feels high for Shaq. Like, if you think back to his LSU and just even, pro free throw days, it feels like hack a Shaq.
I figured it was better than 50% just because, I don't know. I just felt like he's had a lot of opportunities to get it above 50%.
Right.
It's not good. It's for a guy that's 7'2" or whatever he was, it's not good.
No.
He could practically reach the rim from the foul line, so that's bad.
Right.
He's basically just dropping the ball in, not really shooting it.
But in good news, Scooty, you now tied up 2 games apiece against you and Johnson and Bluff the Fluffs for 2022. Scooty, you've always said you're never out of it.
Well, and I know things.
You do know things. I don't know what you know. We've been trying to figure out for years what you know.
General things.
I know
general things. All right. Well, listen, guys, we're going to wrap it up for this week. I know it was a rough episode. I feel like we laid it a lot out there. I feel like, guys,
we made progress together,
and we want to be here for you. We want to be here to help you get through this, whatever this is.
We're gonna do it together.
We're going to do it together. But we're going to do it together by taking a few weeks off, right, guys? Like, we need a break.
Yes.
I think we all need a break. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks. WVU spring football game is April 23rd. That's 1 p.m. You can stream that game online. There are things you can watch.
You could see some defenders for the first time.
Maybe you can see some guys who you've never seen before.
We'll all meet the defense together.
Let's meet the defense.
On top of that, guys, don't forget Randy Mazie, and we didn't really talk about it much. Randy Mazie's got a good baseball team going on. They are 10-8. They're still playing over 500 baseball. They had a great series this past weekend against the Campbell Camels. They lost 2. They won 1. They tried to take the last one, but WVU baseball's doing well, so keep an eye on them. A lot of their games on ESPN Plus, including a game coming up this week against Marshall and a weekend series this coming weekend against Youngstown State. Those are all on ESPN Plus, so check them out. We will check back with you guys in a couple of weeks. We'll talk about WVU baseball. We'll talk about whatever's going on with WVU basketball. Hopefully some more has happened, or we know more what's going on. I think we know who's staying and going at this point. Johnson, but we will see. I don't even know what to expect from this team next year, so maybe we'll get some guidance on that.
Yeah, it's a curveball right now. Hopefully we know. Hopefully we're done, but maybe not.
Yeah. So, guys, listen, definitely check us out online. Keep following us. We tweet all the time at Got Your Eers On. You can also find us on Instagram the same way, and check us out on Facebook. Just search for It's Got Your Eers On. And we have a website, and Johnson keeps it updated, and he will throughout all of this craziness. GotYourEarsOn.com. We'll be back in a few weeks, guys. Thanks for listening. We are Got Your Eers On.